State?
There we go.
The big landscape architecture program.
Do you know what's not here tonight?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the September 12th, 2012 meeting of the Resource Management and Administration Committee of the Grand Traverse County Board, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, could I butt in? I'd like a moment of silence for the 4 Americans that were killed overseas.
Oh boy, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And now, if the clerk will please call the roll.
Commissioner Fleece?
Present.
Gilman?
Here.
Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Here.
Lemkool?
Here.
Max Bauer?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Richardson?
Here. Okay, first item of business is the approval of the minutes from July 11th.
Motion to approve.
Support.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
we'll need a roll call vote on that item, please.
Oh, okay. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Gilman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Excuse me, I was excused, I'm sorry.
Oh.
She
Max
abstained.
Bauer?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Abstain.
Chairman Richardson?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to our first public comment. Clerk would please read the rules for public comment.
Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson, at his or her discretion, can extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Orders of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment shall raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the board on any matter? Okay, if not, we'll close public comment, and of course there will be other opportunities throughout the meeting. Next, we have the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
I have a motion by Inman, support by Wheelock. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carries. I believe there are no special orders of business, so our next item is the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A. Receive and file. 1. Road Commission Monthly Report for September. 2. Conservation District. 3. Recognition letters to Jen Seaman and Jason Jones. B. Approval. 1. Fiscal year 2013-2015 Cooperative Reimbursement Program Agreement.
Is there any member of the public who would like any item removed for further discussion? Seeing none, is there any member of the board who would like to remove any item from the consent calendar? Okay. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that the consent calendar be approved as presented. Support?
Okay, motion by Inman, support by Wheelock. I guess we'll do a roll call. Go ahead.
Commissioner Henschel?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Chairman Richardson?
Yes. Okay, our next item of business is MSU Extension, the annual report, and we have our district manager, Pat Cudney here.
Hi, good evening.
Evening.
I know you all received a copy of this report electronically in your packets, but I do have hard copies available if anyone would like one.
We've got them in our package.
You have them in your packets?
Yeah.
Okay. In a very brief time tonight, I wanted to address the board and give you an update on our programs and their impacts over the last year for 2011. As part of our contractual agreement we have with county government, we provide an annual update to the Board of Commissioners. We've done that in Grand Traverse County for years prior to the new standardized agreement. And I think it's a good idea for us to relate back to some of the things we had discussed, some of the programs that we offered, the numbers of people we served in each of our counties, and the impacts of those programs. That being said, this is a long report. There's a number of things in it, and I'm certainly not going to read it to you this evening. I simply want to touch a couple of the high points over the course of the year that, again, are reflected in the report, and then answer any questions that you might have. So I'll start off by directing your attention to the first page, which the text box at the bottom of the first page is our 2011 participation numbers. These numbers are pulled directly out of our reporting methods we have for how we capture numbers of participants in our programs, and we've broken them down by the 4 institutes that our staff program out of. So I'll start right at the beginning with our 4-H Children and Youth program. That program in Grand Traverse County had 1,187 youth enrolled in participating in the program in 2011. You can see the breakdown of those participants below, which there were 695 traditional club enrollment members. There are 176 4-H adult volunteers. We had 176 short-term or special interest participants. That would be for different programs that may be a one-time event, something that they wanted to attend at Kettman Center or one of the training workshops. And then 140 youth that participated in school enrichment programs. That's where we partner with schools to offer programs within the schools. And then those youth are served by 38 4-H clubs in Grand Traverse County. In our agriculture and agribusiness programs, we had 1,074 individuals participate in our educational programs in 2011. In our Greening Michigan programs, which is our community and economic development work, we had 1,515 participants from Grand Traverse County take part in those workshops and educational offerings. The next number, our health and nutrition programs, 2,425. And I want to be really clear, the health and nutrition program numbers specifically for our supplemental nutrition assistance program. That's our nutrition education program that is part of a federal program that we offer for schools and families that participate in the free and reduced lunch program. Those numbers are counted differently than the numbers that I just previously related to you. The numbers I already stated are per individual that participates in a program. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is counted per contact hour. And we do that because that's a requirement of the federal government. It's how the federal government requires we count those hours. So the 2,425, those are contact hours within that program. So let's say we had 20 children participate in a 5-session course. So we would count that as 100 in only that program. I want to be clear about that. And then finally, a very, very impressive number, which is counted by participant, is the Safe Kids North Shore program, which is a program that is specific to Grand Traverse County. And there's information about that program in the back. Again, in the 4-H program, starting off with our 4-H Children Youth Educational Programming, again, we had 176 adult volunteers, 695 youth were in the clubs, and examples of those projects areas included animal science, archery, arts and crafts, cooking, gardening, challenge, textile arts, robotics, and more from there. You can see a listing of the different sort of statewide events and training opportunities where Grand Traverse County residents participated in 2011. Again, we're really, really proud of our 4-H program, and our 4-H program numbers this year in 2011 were higher than they were in 2010. I think through our restructuring process, we made some really good choices in terms of how we allocate resources to program staff and how we assign program staff. Roxanne Johnson is our 4-H program coordinator in Grand Traverse County. She's supported by our educator, Barbara Duvall. And underneath their leadership in this past year, the numbers for the 4-H program grew over previous years. Moving on to our agriculture and agribusiness education programs. Again, many examples of how Grand Traverse County residents participated in agricultural programming. Again, not all these programs took place in Grand Traverse County. We have residents in Grand Traverse County that travel to neighboring counties if that's where a program was being offered. We have Grand Traverse County residents and residents throughout the state that participate in online trainings, they participate in webinars, they participate on conference calls, but we do count those by their county of residence. That's how we capture the numbers that we provided for you. An example of that is the evaluation of our tree fruit integrated pest management programs. You'll see that on the bottom of page 5. Integrated pest management is helping our orchard owners primarily utilize the best practices for pesticide and herbicide application during the appropriate times. A past practice was there would be regular scheduled pesticide and herbicide application that wasn't always most effective because of the climate at the time, because of the prevalence or lack of prevalence of certain insects that the pesticides are designed to control. So integrated pest management is a science where they look at the natural things that assist in the pesticide application and also the wetting events, the amount of moisture, when is the optimal time to spray, when the insects are prevalent. And we conduct evaluations of all of our programs. And I think the tree fruit IPM update is a good example of how we do that. We had respondents to our survey that represented over 15,000 acres of fruit production in Michigan. Of those 15,000 acres, 43% of the respondents managed acres in Grand Traverse County. So the highest percentage of respondents to that survey were orchard managers or owners from Grand Traverse County. And again, on the top of page 6, you can see the results of how growers are using that information to best manage their orchard and scout for insects and diseases to determine the need for pesticide application and the best time for that application. Hops is a growing industry in our area. We have 3 hops cooperatives now that are operating in Northwest Michigan, and there's a center of that on the Old Mission Peninsula. Our home horticulture assistants, and this is on page 7, we have an average of 25 to 40 clients per week that are assisted with questions related to their home gardens, soil testing, and or fertilizer recommendation. Those are walk-ins, those are calls that come into the office, and again, that's an average of what we deal with during the growing season, spring, summer, and fall. Our Master Gardener program, we had 103 Master Gardener volunteers that contributed. It is an astounding 4,030 hours of volunteer service in a 3-county region. Our Master Gardener program is a 3-county program with Leelanau, Benzie, and Grand Traverse counties. And again, you can see how they volunteered their time and their hours. On the bottom of page 8, we conducted an ag labor and farm safety workshop. I think you're all aware of what's going on federally with immigration and some of the struggles we're having in that regard. So MSU Extension worked with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services on making E-Verify training materials available for agriculture labor programs in Michigan. We conducted one of those workshops here in Grand Traverse County. Following that section of the program, we involved speakers from Michigan Workforce Development, ICE, Farm Bureau, and a local labor attorney. And after the morning session, we focused on labor law and labor availability. Producers participated in a farm safety update in the afternoon in the Traverse City location. So again, this is another example of how we're working with agricultural producers based on their needs. Moving on to page 9, which is the start of our Greening Michigan educational programs. And again, that's a difficult title to explain. It's our community and economic development programs. One thing I'd like to highlight at the bottom of page 9 is the Grand Traverse Regional Market Initiative. Dr. Rob Sarine is our community food system specialist, and Dr. Sarine is working with a number of agencies, public and private, here in Grand Traverse County, again, to create a regional food hub. And creating that regional food hub out of Building 50 on the GT Commons. You can read more about that and find out more about that. There's lots and lots of opportunity. We all know how strong the local food movement is. More and more people are growing their own food and preserving it. We'll get into a piece of the report later that talks about food safety and food preservation. But you can see the work that Rob has been leading up at the Commons with the Grand Traverse Regional Market Initiative. We offered new economy workshops in the past year, very, very well attended. Within our Michigan Sea Grant program, Mark Breederland, again, is our Sea Grant educator, housed here in the Grand Traverse County Extension Office. Starting on page 11, you can read about Mark's work and some of his colleagues' work. We did a lot of support for Acme Township over the past year with a waterfront smart growth assessment. We assisted them with their shoreline park and the developments that they're going through out there. Certainly, Mark continues to monitor the botulism events that we have when we have waterfowl that are washing up dead on the beaches. It's a naturally occurring event, and it depends on weather and algae bloom and a number of things, but Mark continues to monitor and get reports of where waterfowl are washing up on beaches, and there's surveys that are being done through volunteers that walk the beaches, and that's very valuable information. That's supported by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Coastal Grant. Citizen Planner Program, we offered a program in Grand Traverse County called the Art of Community Planning Module. Our Building Strong Sovereign Nations program is where we work with tribal entities throughout the state. It specifically involved 4 tribal entities, one of those being the Grand Traverse Band. We're proud of that program. I know I have a limited amount of time, so I'm going through this quite quickly, and I encourage you to read it more fully. I'm going to move on now to our health and nutrition educational programs. On page 15, improving nutrition and physical activity. As I reported earlier, that during the past year, Grand Traverse County, we had 204 adults and 113 youth were reached through nutrition education classes at various venues in the county. Those are the numbers that helped contribute to that 2,000 contact hour number. The actual participant numbers for that program were 204 adults and 113 youth. Again, we surveyed the impact of that work pre and post, providing those nutrition education classes, and you can see the results of those surveys reported below. Food safety continues to be an old art that's become tremendously resurgent in the past few years, with more and more people growing their own food and wanting to preserve their own food. It's canning at its basic core, and done right, it's a wonderful opportunity to preserve food. Done wrong, it's very, very dangerous. It's probably the single most requested program that we get across the state that we do not currently have the capacity to offer the program at the level it's being requested. I am happy to report that we are hiring a new food safety expert that's going to be housed in the northern tip of the Lower Peninsula, and she is going to have a responsibility of working with Jen Berkey, our local educator in the office, to offer additional food safety workshops in 2013. I would like to wrap up the presentation today by spending a little bit of time talking about the Safe Kids North Shore program. I know a number of you have participated in that program. I don't think everyone's aware that that is an MSU Extension program that works with a number of agencies and organizations in Grand Traverse County. The Safe Kids North Shore and Grand Traverse Region Injury Prevention Coalition works to prevent unintentional injuries across the lifespan. Examples of that include child passenger safety, the distracted driving program, vehicle safety, helmet safety, winter safety, water safety, and pedestrian safety. Jen Ritter is here with me tonight. She's the director and provides leadership for that program, and I want to acknowledge that she's here and thank her for being here. In 2011, she hosted a total of 67 events, and there were 7,864 people that participated in those 67 events. Tremendously impactful. This is a program that's supported not only through Grand Traverse County, but through Coles, through the Munson Munson Foundation. It's a unique public-private partnership that we are quite proud of, and I would think you would be as well. I'd like to wrap up with the very last page of the report. And on that report, you can see a listing of the extension educators. These are the academic staff that are responsible for serving Grand Traverse County citizens in their specialty area. I point you back to this again because it's a reflection of how we're working in our new structure. When Extension restructured our organization, we reduced our administrative overhead, and we invested more resources in program positions. And we encouraged counties not just to look who's sitting in the local office, because certainly the people in the Grand Traverse office serve Grand Traverse County and other counties. But these are all academic staff, and you can read their specialty area, that are responsible to serve Grand Traverse County. And I think it's an accurate reflection and a good reflection of how the restructuring has worked and worked well. I think our numbers reflect that for 2011. Appreciate your support. I appreciate the opportunity to provide this report for you tonight, and I'd welcome any questions you have.
Jason?
How many events did you say she hosted
The North Shore Safe Kids?
Yeah.
67.
67. Now, I know that you referenced that number 7864 as an accurate individual number prior. Were there any duplicates
in those 67 events, do you think? Or is that actually 5% of the three-county population that you reference in this?
Well, I think it could be safe to say that there might be a family that participates both in a water safety program and a winter safety program. They're two separate programs, but certainly the same families could participate in those programs. Jen, is that an accurate response?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You got numbers on the first page there. How do those, you mentioned that 4-H was up. How about the rest of the programs? Are they up, down, flat? Where are we at with the rest of the programs and the numbers?
We're tracking numbers for every program that is offered by enrollment through the county that they register from. Again, if they register online for a program, which most of our registrations are going online, we track their home county. I'm not avoiding the response. The response is, I believe the numbers are up. Clearly, they're up with the 4-H program. Clearly, they're up with our Greening Michigan programs, because we have many of our community economic development programs. We were limited by the limitations of our staff geographic assignment. In this new structure, we have many more staff that are serving counties. And within our ag and agribusiness programs, that's a difficult for me to answer tonight, because we didn't track those numbers in the same way we are now.
Then I think also you'd be remiss and not recognize Jen's involvement. I think she got some award last year for the state for her program.
Yeah.
And two different, was that 2 years ago?
No, I got two governor.
She got two governor service awards.
So,
Who's counting?
yeah, well, but we've got an excellent person.
You don't remind Todd of
there.
that either, do you?
So I think I just want to make sure that we recognize the quality of the people that we have working for the Michigan State Extension, and that they are receiving those awards, and we appreciate it.
I have one. I want to make a comment. I'm not going to be here next year, and I want you guys all to understand something, that at least understand how I see it. In here, this one part of this, it references this new economy. And it's referenced as a new economy by this Kurt Schindler. Kurt Schindler came up and spoke to us in the Planning Commission. And I won't go into the entire conversation that we have, but I can tell you this, that this new economy that he talks about is divergent from free markets and private property ownership and use. And I just want you to understand that. When he talks about new economy, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about central planning from the top down. Okay? Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Pat? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I have some extra copies. We only made so many in color. They'll be black and white from now on, or people can print their own off. But if we could leave them in an appropriate spot, if citizens would like to pick them up, we do have some at the Extension office.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have an update from our Parks and Recreation Commission. Jason Jones, our Parks Director, and Rodetta Herron, who's one of our board members.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Before I get started with update from Parks and Recreation, I just want to mention a couple things. I'm waiting for MSU Extension to give a presentation class, because I want to learn how to give presentations as quickly as Pat there. Secondly, we don't get a lot of folks from the public, but as a parent, I've participated, my wife and I have participated in the Safe Kids programs, and Jen does a great job with those and should be commended for the hard work that she gives to the county. So, nice work, Jen. All right, Rodetta Herron's with me today. The Parks and Recreation Commission, going through our new strategic planning process, identified the need to have better communication between the Parks and Recreation Commission and the County Board of Commissioners. So I'm here tonight to give just kind of a general update. I've got 4 or 5 items that the Parks and Recreation Department's working on. Rodetta's here for support and to be take any questions that you guys would like afterward, and I'll try and help her out where I can. So,
Thank you.
First and foremost, our Parks and Recreation Commission's excited about a new 3-year strategic plan. We've been working hard since January of this year with North Sky Nonprofit Network through a grant, a Rotary Charities grant, to do an organizational capacity assessment, moving into a strategic plan. In the 3rd phase of this grant process are going to be drafting business plans for both Twin Lakes and Power Island. So those topics are next on my to-do list. At our meeting next week of the Parks and Recreation Commission, September 20th, I'll be asking the Parks and Recreation Commission to adopt their 2012-2015 strategic plan. The reason this plan is exciting is it identifies 6 new goals for the next 3 years for the Parks and Recreation Commission, and it represents a change in thinking and change in leadership from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Those strategic goals are to develop more robust recreational programming, strengthen financial sustainability, increase coordination of programs and services, establish Grand Traverse County Parks and Recreation as a recognized leader in the county, improve parks and recreation opportunities within Grand Traverse County, and finally, to increase community awareness of and appreciation for the recreational opportunities in Grand Traverse County. So it's kind of a multi-tiered approach to promoting parks and recreation and really being the leaders in the community and identifying the natural resources that are available both to citizens of the county as well as visitors to the county. Once that strategic plan is adopted by the commission, I'll be sending that to the county administrator's office for distribution to the county board of commissioners, so you all have an opportunity to see that. One of the other items identified within that strategic plan, as I mentioned, was increasing communication between Parks and Recreation and the Board of Commissioners. Within the next 4 to 6 weeks, you'll be receiving information about a meeting. Our Parks and Recreation Commission would like to meet board to board with the Board of Commissioners to discuss some of the things that are coming down the pike for Parks and Recreation, both from our specific Parks and Recreation Department, but other Parks and Recreation departments or other departments throughout Grand Traverse County. So that's kind of an exciting thing. Because within the Parks and Recreation strategic plan, this was actually identified in our last strategic plan, that we pulled together a coalition of Parks and Recreation providers countywide, and that's evolved into what's now the Parks and Recreation Network. It's a group of about 30 different organizations that provide Parks and Recreation services to Grand Traverse County, and we've actually expanded our residential camp services to include the 5-county Rotary region, because they have a collaborative effort that helps identify kind of a clearinghouse for all the residential camps in the 5-county Rotary service area. The Parks and Recreation Network has been working on 2 specific goals since January. The first goal was to develop a Parks and Recreation hub website. So this website, we've bringing together all those Parks and Recreation organizations, including T-Bays, TCAPS, and their recreation or their athletic program, as well as their elite program, have been at the table. We have TAX. We've invited Little League's been at the table, and we've got a variety of different groups. We all identified the need for a centralized, one-stop shopping Parks and Recreation website. Because we have such a segmented Parks and Recreation delivery system in our community, it's tough for parents or people that are new to the community to find places for Parks and Recreation opportunities. If they want to sign their kid up for soccer, who do they call? They're not calling the county, they're not calling the city, they're going to call T-Bays, but how do you find that? As individuals, each of our organizations don't have the finances, don't have the resources to put together a quality website that's easily searchable, that's relevant to search inquiries. So what we've decided is to work together with Leah to develop a new website. The Parks and Recreation Network Hub website will be up and running within the next 60 days. It was a $5,000 commitment from the Parks and Recreation Network as well as the organizations within, and that website, like I said, will be up and running. It's really going to be a great opportunity for people to easily find things where they were not able to find those before. So our Parks and the second goal, of the Parks and Recreation Network was to help, and it goes very, very much, it's very congruent with the goals of the Parks and Recreation Department, is to identify and explore whether there's a need in our community for a Parks and Recreation Authority. One centralized organization that on a countywide scale develops parks, recreation, and leisure opportunities. So a meeting is being called together. I've contacted all the local units of government within Grand Traverse County and identified key people from each of their local units that would like to be a part of this meeting. And our staff has sent out an email inviting all the folks to fill out a doodle survey to determine the best date for that meeting for all of the local units of government. So the Parks and Rec Network is moving together quite nicely, or moving forward quite nicely. Secondly, our department's been involved, have two grants pending right now. We were part of a coalition between Munson Medical Center, Michigan Land Use Institute, TART Trails, and TCAPS to develop a proposal for a 4x4 with what the State Community Health Department identified as their 4x4 grant. And it's 4 strategies to developing 4 different types of strategies to help improve 4 different indicators of health to fight obesity in the state. The grant was submitted, and it was submitted for $156,000. Of that $156,000, a large portion of that was going to go to Munson for a project that they're going to begin in November. $16,000 of that was to go to the Parks and Recreation Network to even further develop the website. $20,000 of that was to go to TCAPS to develop scholarship opportunities for their LEAP, their learning enrichment and athletic program. And then there was a portion that was going to go to TART Trails as well as the Michigan Land Use Institute to help promote fresh foods into the TCAPS school lunch program. My intent was to discuss that today and present it as though it was pending, but we found out today that we did not receive that grant, unfortunately. The grant was awarded up to $180,000 to 6 different communities, and 27 different communities applied for that grant. So we competed for it, but we didn't quite make the cut. We also have a $15,000 grant into the Northwest Michigan Council of Governments for development of that Parks and Recreation Network website, as well as development of an Up North Experience app. That's a collaboration between County Parks and Recreation, the Regional Land Conservancy, the Conservation District, as well as the Leelanau Land Conservancy and TART Trails. And that's going to be an interesting process. If this grant moves forward, and if our partner organizations move forward with that, it will be a very revolutionary app to the point that our partner organizations will trademark the technology associated with it. So kind of an exciting time. I'm not the lead person on that. Tree Sturman from the Conservation District is, but a really exciting opportunity both for the citizens and the visitors to Grand Traverse County and the region. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was that project I mentioned that Munson's moving forward with. We're part of a collaborative effort, as I mentioned. Even though we did not receive the grant, Munson's moving forward with a program to help fight obesity, focusing to some degree on childhood obesity and preventing diabetes. And November 14th will be a kickoff event at the Great Wolf Lodge showing several portions of a HBO series called The Weight of the Nation that tackles obesity through 3 or 4 different mechanisms. And one of the focus groups that the coalition we're working with wants to focus on are community elected officials. So as more planning is done for this event, I would hope that you'll save the date for Wednesday, November 14th, which might be tough for you guys on a Wednesday, but maybe you can get the night off to come attend our event. At the Great Wolf Lodge, you guys will each receive invitations. The public will be invited to this, but each of our local elected officials, as well as Parks and Recreation Commissioners, will receive a special invitation to this event. So that wraps up my presentation. Rodetta?
I'm just here to listen. I want to say that I'm a new member on the Parks and Rec Board, and it's been less than a year. I didn't know especially where we were going at first, but I think that we've come a long ways. I think we're working much better together. There's been some issues on attendance policy. That's been resolved. There's a new thing in our bylaws regarding that. I just think that as a group, we're appreciating each other, listening more to each other, thinking positive, moving along. I like it.
Couple things. First of all, Rodetta, you have made a positive difference on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you.
Impacting the bylaws with the attendance policy is just one small thing that you've brought forward. I did want to take this opportunity to note that I am the Parks and Rec Board members' representative to T-Base, and I did attend their Monday meeting, and I wanted everyone to note that T-Base is bringing in this weekend 172 soccer teams into Traverse City.
Wow.
They don't have enough hotel rooms in the city. 12 teams are staying at Shanty Creek. But Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department is stepping up and working with T-Base for some traffic control over there, and I wanted to let everybody know that. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I did speak briefly to Rodetta via email about this, I don't know how many of you have read that the price of hay is increasing, skyrocketing. We have a barn full of it over on the Meyer property. Now, I asked Rodetta about this because Rodetta has horses. And I asked her if maybe we couldn't give this hay, to the people who rescue horses. I don't know if it's any good. Rodetta was telling me that it can be mixed with regular hay, and it's still good. And if it can't be, the other thing that occurred to me is if the price of hay is so high, the Conservation District still buys hay because they need it for soil, to keep soil from going where it's not supposed to go. Couldn't we offer to alleviate some of their expense if the hay is no good nutritionally? I mean, it's been sitting there for 10 years. So it's just an idea.
Okay.
Well, I think the Conservation Department probably purchases straw for ground cover, not hay.
Shows you what I know.
No, that's a good idea.
Any other questions or comments? Rob?
Mr. Jones, you mentioned the idea of creating a Parks and Rec authority for, was it the county area?
It's so preliminary in that process. We've called together the local units to determine whether there's even a need, whether they perceive there to be a need. So to say that it would just be the county or a portion of the county is premature at this point.
Okay, so something that might look like is, we're talking about township parks, and we have county parks, we have state parks.
City parks.
City parks, village parks. So we're
Recreation
talking,
authority parks.
right, yeah, we do. South County has an authority. So we're talking about possibly collaborating between the different units and managing the properties? Is that kind of the idea?
That's one possibility. The legislation associated with parks and recreation authorities is there are a variety of different mechanisms to create an authority. An authority can be created for something as broad as just saying, we're offering parks and recreation services. It can be that broad, or it can be so minute that it would say, we are developing a park that's on the border of the city and Garfield Township, and we're just going to manage that one piece of property for canoeing. So the mechanism can be finely detailed, and that's what we're really trying to explore. Is it necessary for the authority to manage all parks? I don't know. That's something that we need to ask those local units of government and find out what their needs are. One local unit may say trails is the most important thing to them. Another one may say finding finding matching dollars is their biggest concern. So we really want to pull everyone into the same room and start that discussion.
Okay, and whose initiative is the authority idea?
It's kind of a County Parks and Recreation Commission have identified that in their new strategic plan, and it's also been identified within the Parks and Recreation Network.
Okay, and the network is people from the different townships?
It's local units of government, representatives from local units of government, as well as private, nonprofit, and volunteer recreational organizations.
How many different units of local government are representative on that network?
They've all been invited.
Right. How many are showing up?
We consistently get, obviously, Grand Traverse County, the city of Traverse City, Garfield Township, East Bay Township, We've had some involvement from Green Lake Township. And then we've discussed it quite a bit with Acme Township, but we've not seen a tremendous representation from Acme.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, thank you very much. Rudetta, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item of business is the budget adjustment for the drain commissioner to do the Duck Lake drain. And I guess our drain commissioner is not going to be here tonight, is that the...
That's correct, and I think you all have a letter that I received yesterday. I guess there's a number of items in your packet that talk about this as special assessment district. And it's certainly, I can't carry the water for the drain commissioner, but apparently this was created, this lake level district was created in the late 50s, and there's a judge's order somewhere out there that says it has to be maintained and inspected every 3 years. There are going to be ongoing costs as they relate to this structure, and the question that I think is involved here has to do with whether the county general fund should pay for that or whether the people who live on that lake should pay for that, and whether you agree with the type of budget adjustment that was in here or not. My understanding of these budgets when they're established in these particular types of funds is they really don't know what the expenditures are going to look like, and they can't know until they start going through the process with the homeowners and, decide whether there's going to be a huge hue and cry from them and there's going to be legal expenses involved, or whether there's going to be, it's going to be a very simple process or a very complicated process. So these are really place markers, and that was a discussion I had with the drain commissioner a few days ago.
So just to be clear, we did approve the special assessment district back in May of 2011, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what this is a budget adjustment. And by the way, are any of these numbers on the budget adjustment, proposed budget adjustment, are they any different from what we looked at, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas?
The big difference, and I'll be the first one to agree that they do need money to run that dam, and it's their dam to run. When he just came up with the $10,000, well, that's one thing if it's a budget adjustment, and I don't see us just throwing $10,000 into the pot. The one thing that has changed since our last communication is it says to be loaned. Now, if we loan the money to that revolving drain fund, I can see that because we're going to get it back.
Right.
But just to make an appropriation, no way. The other thing and I was hoping he'd be here tonight, is I've got a problem with the district itself. If you look down there, you'll see that backlot parcels is only $1.70 each. Well, but the problem is, he omitted all the backlots in one subdivision out on Duck Lake Peninsula, 25 lots. Yeah, that's not much money, but it's 25 lots that for some reason or other he took off. Well, I gotta tell you, nobody on the west side of the lake or the east side of the lake has access like they do on the peninsula. They've got improved boat launches, and these people don't have boats in their yards to plant flowers in them. They use them. And I say, fine, if you're gonna eliminate that part of that subdivision, then all the backlots should be eliminated, or all of them should be included. Now, that's my only problem with this whole thing. Because I know that we've got the people out there have got to pay for it, and I can name you a lot of people don't even know we've got a dam, let alone where it is. But in the particular subdivision he's talking about, back in 1960, when it was established before to pay for the dam, There wasn't a house in that subdivision. The developers paid the whole shot for the whole subdivision.
So you don't have a problem with the budget adjustment as much as how he's set up the special assessment district?
Well,
Or how he's
no, I don't
proposing the set?
I don't have a problem with it as long as we appropriate a loan.
Okay.
If it's just an outright appropriation, no way.
The reason that this is a loan is that when the expenses are incurred, if he has to go out and do something, he's going to incur costs, and then he can't put those on a special assessment until he's incurred the costs and knows exactly what they are. The budget that he establishes is something to tell the commissioners, I think I'm going to need up to $10,000 to pay these expenses. I don't know what the expenses are going to be. It might be $300, might be $3,000, it might be $10,000. But this is it's the estimate that he's come up with.
And I don't know what...
And we have to advance the money to them in order for him to pay the bills first, and then he levies the assessment.
But I don't know if he can go back with a special assessment district that's on money that's already spent. Kenny?
Can't do it on previous expenditures until these...
Previous expenditures, anything that...
Bob, please, the microphone.
Please.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob Cooney, Deputy Civil Counsel. We can't recoup the costs that were incurred before the special assessment district is established, or at least the petition is filed. And once that is filed, then the costs of establishing the district can be assessed against the district. So I don't know if that answers your question completely.
So if we loan them the money, there's no way to collect it.
Well, assuming we're going to have a special assessment district, it would be added to the cost of that assessment.
But what you're saying is we couldn't, for instance, go work on the dam and then establish a special assessment district later, but we can charge off the expenses of setting up the district itself.
That's correct. So the $13,000...
Which is why the budget adjustment is all about the expenses of setting up the district, correct?
Yes, and the drain commissioners kept track of the costs associated with maintaining the dam up to this point, and it's $13,000, I think, is the number he came up with. I don't know what
Yeah,
period.
well, we've already written that off.
Yeah,
as far as
yeah,
I
that's
understand.
gone.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Commissioner Maspar.
I would move to approve
you.
the $10,000 budget adjustment.
Support.
Could I also address Commissioner Thomas's question about the back lot owners? I believe what the drain commissioner did is he only assessed those property owners with deeded access, and that's the difference between those 25 lots in the middle. Now, I don't know, I haven't looked at the deeds myself, but I think that was the...
Well, I can tell you that the people in Duck Lake Park don't have deeded access, but they're on the assessment roll.
Is that right? Okay.
So do we need to amend the motion to make that part of it, or is that just something that we'll work out later?
I wouldn't address that part of it.
Okay, thank you.
That motion was in the form of a loan, right?
Yeah, that's...
Yes,
You didn't say it.
I have now.
And I would agree with it.
Commissioner Wheelock, I'm sorry.
Okay, I guess I still have a couple questions. The special assessment district, as it's, alluded to, that has not yet been established? Is that
Well,
correct?
only in that this commission passed a resolution approving the establishment of a special assessment district. The drain commissioner has now got the map with all the parcels that are intended to be assessed, and the next step is to file a petition in the circuit court.
Okay. I guess I'm terribly frustrated by the letter on our desk tonight. And for an elected official to start this letter saying, I am sorry that for personal reasons I've been advised not to attend this meeting. The drain commissioner, as an elected official of this community, was asked to come before the County Board of Commissioners and explain this budget. And he does not feel, for personal reasons, he should do that. I don't understand that whole thing. He's provided the information and finally approved. If the information provided is not sufficient, please request that commissioners let me know in writing what specific information is still required. Now, I believe that when a department head of this community is asked to come before the Board of Commissioners and explain a budget that he's proposing, he should have his ass here. And this bothers me a lot.
Commissioner Fleece and then Max Bauer.
I believe I was the one that made the motion and asked the drain commissioner to attend our meeting so we could ask some questions. I am really appalled at the cavalier attitude of his letter. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll not support any motion until that man is sitting in where Mr. Cooney is sitting tonight, and he actually answers some questions. Normally, you ask him a question, you never get an answer. He talks around you. Now he's decided he doesn't have to come to us at all. Well, I disagree, and I think we need to take whatever legal action that we have to get the man here, to make him understand that the tail doesn't wag the dog.
Well, you know, before starting to attack someone, you know, I found out today that a friend of mine has stage 4 cancer. You don't know what personal reasons these are. And, you know, they are just that, personal reasons. I'm sure if the drain commissioner could be here tonight, he would be here. I just find it hard to believe that you need to start slinging arrows about at somebody without knowing the circumstances.
Commissioner Thomas and
Well, I'm in favor of the motion, but I can't vote for it until I know where those backlot districts are going to be.
Like Bob just told you. Bob just told you. They're not units.
That didn't answer the question about Peninsula Shores Park number 4, which he is exempting.
And I don't know whether they have access or not. I trust that Commissioner Thomas, who's lived out there for a long time, probably does know, so.
But we could find that out before the board meeting.
And obviously, that's part of the whole court process to make sure that we're assessing the proper homeowners.
He's got to have the districts right. One of my neighbors, under this plan, would be paying for 6 parcels. Yet he's going to let the ones off that are surrounded by water, he's not, and apparently it's an error in the plat dedication. That's the only thing I can blame it on.
Commissioner Gilman.
And for a number of the reasons, in fact, the questions that remain unanswered. We said we had questions. Now, whether or not he has personal reasons or he just wants to avoid answering these questions, he's not here. Until we can get those questions answered, I don't think we should proceed. Is that something?
The bottom line here is if we don't proceed, you're going to be paying for this out of your general fund dollars.
I don't believe he has the authority by which to contract services without authorization of this Board of Commissioners. His statement here that if we don't approve this tonight...
We have to have a dam inspection. It's going to have to come out of general fund money.
Has to be done within 3 years.
It needs a budget adjustment for that, I believe, to take the money out of general fund. Commissioner Inman?
Well, I'm in favor of establishing the budget adjustment, and then we can answer the issue of the question about what homes should be properly assessed. And Bob can just take a look at the review of the map or visit with the drain commissioner and give us an answer by our board meeting. So I'm fine with moving forward with at least initially recommending to the full board at the end of the month, setting up the budget, and then we can hopefully get the remaining questions answered by our board meeting. And ask the drain commissioner to attend the board meeting as well.
Yeah, I have lots of reasons why I'm not too happy with our drain commissioner right now, but I do think this is something we need to do, and it seems honestly silly that we've spent as much time on it as we have over the last year and a half, and yet we still can't seem to resolve it. I will vote for this budget adjustment, and you know, maybe we need to, you know, tack on a little addendum that you know, if he expects us to pass out at the end of the month, he better show up to answer some questions. I mean, I don't know if that's something the motioner would like to do or not, but this is the county's business, and we've got to quit wasting time on it. You know, just because this particular individual chooses to drag his feet and not talk to us, we still need to do the business. I'm sorry.
Chris, in response to your comments about his personal reasons, I'm not concerned about his personal reasons. That's what he wrote here. What really galls me, I look forward to receiving the commissioners' questions or comments in writing. You know, every time we summon somebody in front of this board, they don't show, and we got to submit our questions or comments to them in writing, that's absolutely absurd. You know, wonder if the Register of Deeds does that. Wonder if the clerk says you want a clerk for your own meeting, clerk it yourself. Seriously. That man needs to appear here, and I'll not support the motion, and I hope that the media picks up on this, because the election is coming up, and that man is apparently incompetent to handle the position that he's running for when he cannot answer a simple question by this commission to appear and ask or answer a few questions that the commissioners have. And I think Commissioner Thomas, who is well-versed in this issue, who I've talked to, has hit the nail right on the head, and he has some very valid questions. And I don't know why we should put a nickel towards any of that.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote on this one.
Commissioner Inman,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Thomas,
No.
Wheelock,
No.
Please,
No.
Gilman,
No.
Henschel,
No.
Chairman Richardson.
Yes, motion fails 4-5. Okay, that brings us to the administrator's report, and actually our first item of business is filling vacancies on Resource Recovery Council and Parks and Recreation Commission. Commissioner Maxwell, were you the chair of that ad hoc?
Yes.
Would you like to take over, please?
Yes, we had a unanimous decision. We recommend Alyssa Kropa for the remainder of a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2013, and Jennifer Strauss to fill the remainder of a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2014 on the Resource Recovery Council.
And Alyssa,
Is that a motion?
And Alyssa
Yes.
Kropa
Yes,
is
please.
for...
Parks and Rec.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Support.
so I have a motion by Max Bauer, support by Lemkool. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is the Building Authority vacancy. I guess I can probably introduce this one. As part of our county treasurer, Bill Ruckus, resigning as treasurer, he's also resigning his seat on the Building Authority. And I was actually a little surprised to find out that he is not on the Building Authority by virtue of being the treasurer, but he just, happened to be appointed to that. So that creates a vacancy on a 3-person board, which is sort of critical. And in discussion with our county administrator, Dave Benda, he expressed a strong desire to fill that vacancy. And one of the reasons is because the Building Authority is pretty important to how we conduct county finances and new buildings and approving the money we spend and keeping track of the bonds and all that good stuff.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dave Benda to fill the current vacancy.
Okay, I have a motion by Lemkool, second by Inman. Dave, do you want to expand on that at all, or?
No, I'll be happy to take that appointment. I think it's really important that the county have representatives on that board. It is, they carry out the wishes of the board and make sure that they follow the wishes of the board. It's really important that the board has a direct link into that board. Commissioners cannot sit on that board, but I do believe that if you think about the controversial issues that may arise, if you have, the Building Authority could get away from you and do things that are against the will of the board. When the board is willing to take on a political issue and you have other people on that board that don't feel that way, you really don't want that to be, it's more of an implementation board, not a policy board. You're the policy board and you set the policies. And I think that that's why I asked Ross, when he said, what do you think we should do about this? I said, you need to get your people on that board, people that work for you on that board. And I feel pretty strongly about that. And my history, having put in a jail and a courthouse in a couple different counties, there are some political buildings that go up that have serious political implications that you really want your building authority to be following your policy directions.
Okay.
All said. Any further comments or discussion? Everybody understand the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Now, do you
Thank
need
you.
you need a second motion for the ad hoc committee? or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, I thought that was going to be on the, do we need to amend the agenda to address that, or can we just?
It's in the write-up.
It's on the second recommendation on there.
I missed
It's in
it.
the write-up.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Okay.
It's all right.
Well, I'm looking at the agenda. The
Yeah.
agenda just had the one thing. I'm like, why
Yeah.
is that a separate issue? The other part of the discussion with Mr. Benda that I had was that with a three-member board, now that we've appointed him to it, we still have two public members and one employee of the board, as it were. And he feels strongly that we should at least explore the possibility of expanding the board to 5 members and then having, again, 2 public members, but then 3 members who are, connected to county government, to again, for the same reasons that he just stated about making sure that that board is following the wishes of the Board of Commissioners. So what I'm proposing is that we form an ad hoc committee to review the language that, creates the building authority and to bring back recommendations for change to the whole board at, some future date, hopefully not too far in the future. So, I guess what I'd like to do is hopefully get a motion to create a 3-member ad hoc to review this, number one, and then assuming that passes, we'll take some volunteers.
So moved. Share it.
Support. Okay, we have a motion by Thomas and support by Wheelock. Any discussion on the first part to establish the ad hoc? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then we need 3 volunteers.
I think
Okay,
you
Wheelock,
and
Inman.
Sonny, you should be on that as chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Wheelock, Inman, and me.
I guess the comment that I'd make is we have to realize that we have bonds out yet probably 20 years on public buildings that we are building, including the health department building that's currently under construction. The building authority will own those buildings until such time as they're paid off. So we need to make sure that the building authority is representing not only this Board of Commissioners, but what's best for our community and considering our community when they talk about how they handle this, because these public buildings are in their control until such time as the bonds are paid off.
Right. And I also had a conversation with one of the 2 public members just in the last couple of days, and he called me up and was very concerned about, Bill Rokas leaving and hoping that, whoever we found to replace, Rokas would be, have a strong financial background in the interest of the county and so forth. So this pretty much, goes hand in hand with that. Commissioner Inman.
Well, I was just going to express 2 things. One is that, once we get the replacement in for the treasurer's position, and that we would maybe look to that person or Heidi, whoever gets elected after the November election. And second of all, Dave, I'm just wondering if we should just ask Bob Cooney to do a quick review on the statute on this and make sure we have the capacity to expand it beyond 3, and if there are any other statutory requirements of this building authority for counties. It's always something we should probably ask and do a quick review on.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I was, the Midland County Building Authority, which I was the chair for many years, is a 5-member board with two public members and 3 county-appointed employees, basically.
Right.
I've seen in Ingham County, it was the controller, the county attorney, and the treasurer. And in Clinton County, it was very similar. It was.
So if we can have Bob just do a quick look at it. Okay.
Okay. So do I have a motion for appointing Commissioners Inman, Wheelock, and Richardson to
So moved.
ad hoc committee with Richardson to serve as chair?
Yep, so moved.
Okay, so moved by Inman. Do I have support from Henschel? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, could I get you to send me a copy of the existing bylaws and then also the act or the statute creating the building authority?
Sure.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Actually, if you would send that to everyone, that would be great.
That'd be great.
Okay, our next item of business, and for this one I will defer to Mr. Benda, is the tax sharing policy.
Okay, if you have the stomach for it, I have a PowerPoint if you want to see it.
Thank you.
Which really kind of, because tax increment financing is such an esoteric subject, and not many people understand what it is, I kind of wanted to give you a short PowerPoint to show you what it really means and what it does.
There are people watching.
It's the increment, when you create a tax increment financing authority, when a city or a township does, or a county does, any value that increases in that district is captured and used and applied against all the various tax rates that are in that district. For example, the county tax rate and the intermediate school district, and all those are captured, and the amount that's generated on the increased value, the increment, becomes the revenue to the authority.
Right.
And over a period of years, especially in times of high inflation, when property values skyrocket, it can amount to serious amounts of money. So I guess I could show you this, and I'm going to try and go through it as quickly as possible. And if I can only get these things to start up, I'll be good. She said, just push the button.
You might have to get
You might have to get closer.
That was on.
No, I saw a flash.
You
I
almost
saw
have
that
to go
one.
right to them.
Did you
There's
pay
one.
the
There's
late
one.
bill?
There we go.
There we
That
go.
work.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere.
There you go.
Ah, there's two. That one on?
Got 3 or 4.
The one above your head's on too, so.
I don't know if that one's going to get it or not. Anyway, let me go quickly through these slides. Back in, this has been around for a long time. The Grand Rapids DDA was formed in 1980, and it's still going strong. It will probably continue. I think it's continuing until 2042 now, because they pretty much renew themselves every 2 years. The Michigan legislature in 1994 recognized this, and they included a provision that allows counties to get an agreement with these tax increment financing authorities, and there's the city or township that has created it. And they included this language in these statutes, and that statute is kind of small here, but what it says basically, originally, it said that the may that you see boldface there, that the authority may enter into agreements with taxing jurisdictions like us to capture the taxes that are in that district that are on the increment. It was just a may situation until 1994. After 1994, they gave us the authority to we could exempt ourselves from this. And what you do when you exempt it is you can enter into an agreement with that jurisdiction to do those things. And if you don't get an agreement, and if you don't require an agreement during the 60-day public hearing period that they have when they're creating these authorities, you lose all your rights forever. Now, the Attorney General has changed that just a hair by saying that if they want to put a new property into their authority, then they have to give you this exemption, and you can enter into an agreement on just the increment on the new property. But the old property gets to exist forever, and all the old properties in the development district get to stay forever. So it's kind of the gift that lasts forever.
Keeps on giving.
The TIF plan amendments generally extend the life of an authority for another 20 to 30 years. So when they do their, in Grand Rapids, for example, every 2 years, they extend theirs another 30 years.
Jeez.
So, and they have amended theirs somewhere around 18 times now. So that if you have the idea that sooner or later, that the whole purpose behind this is you're going to develop this area with this money, and then it's going to look nice, and it's going to prosper, and at the end of this life of this authority, all the money will be returned to the taxing jurisdictions that put all their money in all these years, and they will get a little bonus from whatever's left in the pot, and the property will go back on the tax rolls. The increment will go back on the tax rolls. But it becomes it doesn't just stop, it just keeps on going and it keeps on growing, and they just never cease to exist. There are very few that have ever ceased to exist, actually, without an agreement entered into by a county or an intermediate school district or whoever is getting their taxes captured. If the captured taxes exceed the amounts of the original plan, they have these wonderful things. We're going to put in street lights, and we're going to put in cobblestone streets, and we're going to do all these wonderful things. Once they finish all that, they decide they have a bunch of extra money. They can just add new projects to the plan. Now, they don't have to talk to the elected officials about this, but in general, these authorities are appointed by the jurisdiction that they exist within, which in the case, it might be a city, it might be a township, and they can basically continue these forever and add as many projects as they want to it, and there's not much you can do about it. And not only can they do that, they can also re-gift this stuff. Ann Arbor's DDA has an alley repair plan where they put together, they commissioned a study from Washington Engineering in 2004 to assess the alley conditions, and they had a downtown alley repair plan, and that they rated the alleys, and they did all these wonderful things to find out what their needs were, and they've improved many alleys. Their elements of repair included storm sewers, improving drainage, installing conduit for future utility needs, replacing asphalt with attractive colored and stamped concrete, which is more durable, and they plan on doing many, many more in the future. Someone might say, well, isn't this what normally they do with city money without a DDA? Well, you normally do these things, these infrastructure projects are normally the responsibility of the city, but if they can use your money to do it, then why wouldn't they? Ann Arbor also did their DDA did a LED streetlights grant, which was really interesting. It was in 2007, they voted to approve a $630,000 grant to the city of Ann Arbor. This is of the money that they collected in county taxes and ISD taxes and so forth. They granted it to the city of Ann Arbor to retrofit 1,400 downtown globe lights to more energy-efficient LEDs. And the DDA's website boasts that each globe street light that is retrofit to LED represents $107 a year cost savings to the city in energy and maintenance costs, plus the program provides dramatic evidence of the Ann Arbor DDA's clear commitment to new energy technology initiatives. So I just need somebody to explain to me how reducing the city of Ann Arbor's electric bill by $150,000 a year is related to economic development. And the possibilities are endless on what they can use this money for. They've used them for fire trucks, they've used them for police officers, they've used them for parks, they've used them for, you name it, they've used them, and they're very creative. I'm on a Michigan Local Government Management Authority or Association blog that they email out all these, somebody sends out a question and they get all these responses, and they're looking for creative ideas on how to spend the TIF money. Oh, we've got all kinds of ideas, and I've got a laundry list of the most preposterous things, and they're all basically city services. They're basically the relief valve for the city budget. So in the unlikely event that a TIF plan is ever ended and completed and dissolved, the legislation, this is the kicker, you don't get any of your money back. It just all goes to the city or township that established the TIF or DDA. So if they have extra money, if the values went up way more than you anticipated, they just get to keep the money. So that's the legislative kicker on that. So what can county boards do to stop such abuses and get control of how much and how long these tax dollars are going to be captured? You need to treat the contributions the same as other appropriations that you make to ensure that these funds are used to reflect your priorities. I suggest that we review any TIF plans and TIF plan amendments very carefully. and make sure that they include these kind of things. Does it serve a public purpose? What happens to the additional revenue? What's the economic benefit for the county in the long run? Are traditional municipal services included in the financing plan? Does the plan accomplish its goals in a reasonable time frame? Are the stated purposes very vague? And does the municipality allow its millage to be captured in the plan? And there are cases where the municipalities established a district, taking everybody else's money, but didn't put their own in.
Really?
So this law that I cited earlier allows us to create a tax sharing policy that automatically requires an agreement. And the policy that I've designed is one that automatically says we will, upon receiving our 60-day notice, once they have their public hearing, we've got 60 days to respond, that will direct me, as the administrative controller, to send a letter to the city or to the township and say, we want to enter into an agreement for these services, we want to look at your plan, and we want to agree to it. And we'll decide how long, and we'll decide, what the projects will be and whether we agree with all those projects before we'll let you capture any of our dollars. And when you do, you can capture our dollars, and we'll be part of that process. But 20 years from now, when it ends. It ends. You'll need our approval to continue it. And we will have to be a part of that process also. We'll have a say in the process. However, if we don't do this, and it happens, they don't have to ask anymore. They continue forever.
You just earned your full salary for the year.
Hey, it's a great tool, but...
Motion to approve the tax sharing policy.
So I have a motion by Inman, support by Gilman. Have any discussion on this? Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I guess, the comments, I certainly agree with this motion, and I will certainly support that. But I think we have to also recognize that there are definitely benefits to the community for TIF financing.
Absolutely.
And TIF projects. And we've had some marvelous development in our community that's been enhanced by the TIF projects or by tax abatements that have been given by the different units. But all of those had a deadline. And what we've seen happening, particularly I've seen more over the last 4 or 5 years, is exactly what you're describing. That the 15 years or the 20 years is up. Well, we're going to extend that for another 10 years. And the idea was we use these tax abatements and these TIF arrangements to encourage businesses to come here and develop and create jobs and to develop into our community and contribute to our community, and they've done a great job with that. But when that TIF thing ends or time frame ends or the tax abatement ends, it needs to end because the taxing entities simply need the money.
Right.
There's no payoff. The payoff is that you get the economic development that the other jurisdiction gets.
The way it's currently being handled, we don't have any say about it because we don't actually issue the TIF arrangements.
Commissioner Lempool.
I just mentioned Commissioner Richardson about, I think the city has got this on their agenda to discuss on one of their current TIFs, that whether or not they want to continue keeping it running or whether they want to stop it. Is there a way for us to send a letter to the commission asking them for, giving them our particular point of opinion that this thing should stop at this end? It may not hold any weight, but at least we ought to let them know what our feelings are and that it should be done in letter so that they have that before their...
If I can comment on that.
I'd love to have you.
First of all, it's TIF 2, which is the one that's around, River's Edge and, the whole Haggerty development and everything. That is going to come, is going to expire first, and that's about a little less than 4 years from now. What the city was talking about was a policy. They're a long ways from actually making a decision on it. Certainly, if we adopt this policy, I think that sends a strong message to the city, of where the county's coming from. And I will say that both of your two city county commissioners stood up at that meeting where they were talking about it and said, we don't like this.
Enough's
You know,
enough.
We want that money to come back, come back to, come back to, where it's supposed to come. Including, by the way, and speaking as a city resident, I said, I want that money to come back to the general revenue fund.
Yeah.
I don't want you to
Absolutely.
keep, just tucking away for this, that, and the other thing. I haven't been involved up here that long, but really in the 6 years that I've really been, paying attention, the DDA has constantly, renewed and revised what they can spend that money for. When I was on the Traverse City Planning Commission, they would come forward, the DDA would come forward with its capital improvement, project plan every year. And there was stuff on there, you're thinking like, oh, come on, you're not serious about that. But then I've seen them dust that stuff off when they need to spend some money on something to make another project happen over here. There's things like a big downtown civic center right in the middle of downtown Traverse City. I can't imagine they'd ever build that, but gee whiz, if they need to drop $5 million somewhere, it's just sitting there waiting for it. And they have done things like, as you said, put a police officer, using DDA money. And most recently, we have the History Center. I think the History Center is a valuable public program, but should it be being paid for by economic development funds?
Well,
I don't know.
That's a question that we should be involved in.
Right, exactly.
It's because you want to capture county dollars. That's a discussion that we should be able to agree with you on, and how long that will take, and how much it's going to cost, and, it's a cooperative thing, and that, it starts cooperative, but then the way this, I call it awful legislation is structured, is they take away all our rights after the first 60 days. If we don't speak up the first 60 days, that's it.
Yeah, and this
Be
TIF
silent forever.
policy obviously resolves that. In fact, the comment I made before the city commission was, when these districts were created, in the case of TIF 2, 26 years ago, so there was a promise, and the promise was at the end of 30 years, all this growth would then be returned in tax dollars to all the districts that agreed to participate in the TIF. And of course, what they were talking about at that time was not making good on that promise. So, anyway. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Any comments on the specifics of the policy?
No?
Okay.
I read it. It's
All
fine.
in favor?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay.
Now we come to the administrator controller report.
I prepared a
Like this.
few pages here, giving you an idea what's going on in the county at this moment, and I don't know if you find it helpful.
Very,
The idea
very.
is
It was
to-
excellent,
nice.
right on.
Okay, and the idea is to be able to give you this so that you can go out to your townships or to, talk to the citizens, and you have something that tells you what's going on in each of these areas so that you're not in the dark.
The question that was asked is what positions, we have 14 positions open in what areas?
Oh, I don't have Jen here, so I can't
Yeah,
tell you.
know.
I can tell you a
I told
few
him
of
I thought
them.
maybe police department and the jail probably were
Yes,
some of
there
the...
are some open in the police department. I think they're down 4 officers right
Right.
now.
The deputy finance director.
Yeah, well,
Deputy Finance Director's job
Comes to
shadowing with the
mind.
treasurer.
yeah. I found it very valuable.
Thank you.
Commissioner Emmons.
Well, I want to thank you for putting this thing together, and I really haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but there was a point in time where when Dennis was the county administrator, he was putting these things together, but they wasn't on a consistent basis. First it was like monthly, and then it was every other month, and it was quarterly, and then it was like maybe 3 times a year. And I know things don't happen overnight in county government, and
Right.
it's hard to update things as things go along in a year, because we're focused on just a few number of things. But the administration office did send a copy to the townships, the city, and the villages, and they would have it on their consent calendar in terms of the information received. And it did help us when we came in during our county commissioner reports to highlight the report and answer questions, and then move on to some other supplemental things that we wanted to highlight on. So I know it takes your time staff time to develop this, but this is really a nice format, and it's more detailed than Dennis had put together. He'd give us 6 or 7 bullet points, but I think at least for the start of this, I think you did a really nice job.
Thank you.
In the outline. It was very valuable.
The other thing that I use this for, I don't know if you noticed, but my bullets, I have different bullets in certain spots.
Right.
And this is my 5 minutes on television piece, where I get to say some of the good things that are going on in our county, into that and into those cameras over there. And I want you to know that, the 5 minutes is worth it. I think that one thing that we don't do, we don't have a communications person, although we have several departments that have their own communications persons. The County Board of Commissioners doesn't have its own communications person, and we need to do what we can to get the word out on the good things that the county is doing. We had a wellness event on Friday, August 17th. It was really well attended by our employees, and it was a great wellness event. There was a lot of great stations for the employees to walk around to, and the food was good, and the commissioners served, and it was really a great event. I want to recognize Arlene Grokow in our Human Resources Department for putting that on and taking the lead with it. And she certainly worked with the committee, but she was the one that made sure that all the details got taken care of. I want to recognize her. I wanted you to know that the Health Services Building is coming right along. Curbs are installed. We're working on the asphalt's coming. Furniture bids were awarded to a local contractor, Interphase Interiors. The time frame is moving up, and we're targeting November 13th as the date that we're going to be moving. And so we're going to be down for about a week in that time period. And I wanted you to all be aware of that. And somewhere else in here, I talk about the mall. We're going to have, during that week, we're going to have a spot in the mall. Actually, we're going to have a spot in the mall.
Oh, I see.
Kit Mikovits from our health department contacted the Grand Traverse Mall management, and we got a space for flu clinics and so on and so forth, and we did have space there some time ago. We got it for the cost of the utilities.
Wow.
So that's really great. She did a good job, and we're going to be doing flu clinics in there, some temporary immunizations, WIC, and some other clinic activities as we transition. So I wanted to note that we had started electronic ticketing in our sheriff's department, that the city and the city police, and that started on September 6th with a small group of officers. They're going to be writing e-tickets, going to be going electronically to the courts, and they're going to be processing it, and hopefully we're getting close to completely electronic and a lot less paper and a lot less time filling out little forms in the cars. That way they can get back on the road and do what they're supposed to do.
And trying to read the penmanship through the carbon paper.
Yeah. We're working on the master plan, but under that, planning department has been working with several local units, and they've gone to all the planning commissions, every planning commission in the county, and now they're meeting with planning commissions in the adjacent counties to see if they have common development, land and development issues. They also got some computer-generated photo images for Kingsley, and they're being developed also for Interlochen so that they can use them in their planning functions to assist with their growth and development visions. It's also, the planning department's also working with Acme Township, basically on the bayfront plans for Acme Township. They're working with the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to work on some demolition of buildings over there. And they're assisting Fife Lake with a potential historic rehab project. Also wanted you to know that Grand Traverse 911 Facebook is now live, and they've got some pretty interesting information out there. If you get a chance to visit that Facebook page, give them a thumbs up, tell them that you like it. And I think that's all that I wanted to talk about today.
All right, good.
All right.
Good report.
I had a couple other items that I wanted to tell you now.
Mr. Benda, will you also share that with county employees?
This report?
Yeah. I think the county employees,
Dennis did that too.
that's a very integral part of our community.
It's an excellent
And
idea.
they're citizens of our community too, and so I'm sure they would be interested in knowing all the information that's going, all the things that they are helping to be part of.
I agree 100%. That's
Yeah,
a great
good point,
idea.
yeah. Dennis sent that out to all employees too, yeah.
I also wanted to let you know that I sent out an employee survey a few weeks ago, and the date for getting those in was this past Monday, and I've received over 150 responses. Haven't counted them all up, but they're being compiled right now, and then I will be taking those responses, distributing those, and getting, we also asked for them to identify what departments they were from. We're going to get those out back, summarized and into the department heads' hands, and let them start to work on work plans for the upcoming year based upon it's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis, to try and work with their staff and bring forward what they think is important in their mission to work on in the upcoming year, and they'll bring those forward to me, and I'll summarize those and put them all together and bring them forth to the Board of Commissioners so that we can start the big work plan.
Okay, good.
And I also wanted you to know that I'm the president of the Michigan Public Employer Labor Relations Association, and they're having a conference next week at Shannon Creek. I'll be out from Wednesday to Friday. However, I have Ways and Means on Wednesday, so I'll have to come back. And I also am going to be out the following Monday and Tuesday at Mac. So just wanted you to know that. And I will definitely, Dean will be here, and Jen will be here, and I will be tethered.
Okay. All right, okay.
Okay, thank you. There's no unfinished business?
I guess the question I have for Dave is, where are we with our budget stuff? Are we going
Good
to start
question.
seeing drafts soon?
Well, it depends on what you think you're going to see first.
Well, you tell me what we're going to see.
I'm working on it right now. There are a few issues that I still have to get worked out with some folks, and I'm not going to mention who that is, but they come from different branches of government.
Let me guess. Take a
And,
wild guess.
And I intend to meet with Dean tomorrow morning and talk to him about exactly what we should be bringing forward at the next Ways and Means Committee to get you started. But we really need to get it completed and get a recommended budget together for you so that you can, and my intention is to give you a recommended budget, and then you can do what you want with it after that. And I intend to give you, there's a lot of folks that have requested new positions. There's some folks that there may be some opportunities for cost savings if we decided we want to do some things. Some of those things I may put into place right away in the recommended budget, but others you may want to take a look at. And if you have to have the balanced budget first, and then we can figure out whether we need to reduce some things or increase some things, and we'll work from the current services budget and any additions and subtractions. So we have to get the current services budget hammered out first. And we think we can do that. I think we can basically continue current services into next year without any large cuts. The question is what kind of major capital improvements are you going to fund, and how are we going to finance several things next year. So those are the issues that need to be sorted out, and I don't know exactly the date that I'm going to have that all done for you, but it's kind of like
Soon.
yeah, soon.
Okay.
So stay tuned, it's coming.
Okay.
Can you bring us up to speed on the article about the Munson's parking deck and our windfall, the possibility that we might get?
Windfall.
That's part of his budget.
It is. And, well, they have, they've moved their cancer center to a different location, and they've decided they're not going to do that. And I pressed the planning department and, to talk with the land bank and the Brownfield Authority to, put an end to this. It's, the purpose for which it was created is no longer present. And, let's get that
2 points for
money
Gilman
back on the
tonight.
tax rolls. And so that's where the article came from, and now they're, it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that.
The land bank spoke with them, I think the last time we actually got any formal communications from Munson was about March. about that, and that was when that whole discussion happened about, they were going to build the cancer center, but they weren't going to build it at Copper Ridge, and,
Right.
basically we told them, look, we've held this piece of property for you now for 3.5 years, and, we need to know what you're going to do. And, well, we're still hanging on, But, they were definitely put on notice that by the end of this calendar year, a decision needed to be made.
Okay.
Good.
All right. No new business? This brings us to second public comment. No public comment. Commissioner committee reports. Commissioner Gilman.
Attended East Bay and Peninsula Township this week, both of which Dean was at, and he's gotten approval from all of the G5. As far as I know today.
Elmwood also.
Elmwood as well today. He had a meeting at 1 o'clock, so that's a good thing. Gets that done. They had a lot of questions. He was able to represent us very well. In fact, I was quite happy with his presentation. And the other thing at the East Bay Township, the Metro Fire was there, and they were talking about their budget. And they were talking about, basically, East Bay Township approved the 2.1 mil operating. But their budget is apparently, it's a structured deficit. But along with it, just so you're aware, along with it, they're talking about buying an engine. I'm not sure of the necessity for it or not, but they're talking about buying an engine. And they're also talking about wage increases. Because apparently some of the firemen went out on their own and did a wage and salary study and compared to some other similar agencies. So, yeah, to the city, they did. And of course, that was the big bone of contention, there's $20,000 difference average, roughly. So, just so you know that there is something on the horizon.
I believe that's why the city's talking about entering into a contract with Metro Fire to operate their fire department, too.
I know. So anyway, a little bit of that going on. And just if I can, I'll just make my last announcement. You'll never have to hear it again this year.
Constitution.
Constitution celebration.
I bought 2 tickets.
This Sunday, it's going to be a lot of fun. Free, 1 to 5, and we have a car show. Bring your car down there, and we have a car show as well.
Show.
Hey, it's a lot of different ways to bring people in. We expect about 1,000 people that go through there. So.
Great.
Anyway, thanks.
Okay. Any other? Yes, Commissioner Fleece.
I attended Mayfield Township's meeting Monday night and Blair's last night, and I think there's a battle brewing out there, reference to septic plant. Both boards agreed to join other rural townships in exploring the idea of a suit against the G5, plus hiring the attorney to do so. So if the G5 goes ahead with their special assessment, I think you're going to see a lawsuit. Well, I don't think. You will see a lawsuit.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing that could ever happen. Because it's just going to waste every taxpayer's dollars. That's.
Yeah. We're all basically all fighting with ourselves.
My suggestion is that those 5 townships have their own special assessment district and leave the rest alone. Whatever.
Okay.
I have one.
Yes.
I talked to Garfield Township that their offices are closed on Friday, so anybody that's got taxes due, you can wait till Monday to pay them. So, that Gene Blood said that they will backdate them to the 14th, and so they will not be late. So the general public, just to let you know. And then also, I got an email that we will have, Bob Cooney is going to do a seminar on the
Open Meetings Act for you.
Yeah, Open Meetings Act and all that kind of stuff. So if anybody hasn't
That's in
seen
November.
that, so November, I think, 13th.
13th.
And so that'll
So you should
be
get
in
that
the
now.
morning and in the evening session. So if you want to do that, any elected official would be like to get into that, please call and reserve a time to be able to do that.
It was good last year, it's worth
Yeah, it
going
was.
to.
Yeah, it's always good.
Any other notices or announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second from Edmund. All in favor?
Aye. Good night, Dickie.
We'll see, Rob?
Well, we hit the nail twice, Jason, tonight for you. You ought to be walking out.
Hey,